Good morning to you, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here. I am down in Palm Bay, Florida, as we are tracking Tropical Storm Eta in the Caribbean Sea, passing the Caymans right now with tropical storm conditions reported there. Recon has gone in and has confirmed that Eta is now back to tropical storm strength, and it looks like it's trying to get better organized fairly quickly. The chance that it becomes a hurricane is still on the table, although it's not going to matter that much in terms of the impacts this is going to have. And that's the main focus of what I will address in this morning's update. So I appreciate you joining me. So let's take a look. So here it is, Eta, as of 10 a.m. Eastern Time, regaining tropical storm strength. Wind is reported to be 40 miles per hour, and the pressure is dropping now to 998 millibars. And the newest piece of information, other than the fact that it's a storm again, tropical storm warning has been issued for South Florida and the Florida Keys. So here's a satellite image of actually a series of images, a loop, if you will, of Eta, and it has definitely become better organized overnight. Deep convection, that's the thunderstorm activity, has wrapped around the low-level center, which has reformed a little bit to the northeast up in this area, and so it's getting better organized. It's trying to align itself. Everything is generally moving in the same direction through here. The upper level flow, the low level center. It's not ideal, but things are generally moving along in the same direction, and that helps the cyclone to be aligned. The low level, the mid level, the upper level centers, if they align, then you get some pretty, I won't say rapid strengthening, but you get a steady increase in intensification. But you know what? It is November. It's November 7th. It's not September 7th, and so the overall environment is going to have a lot more hurdles in it than we would see earlier in the hurricane season. So this is going to move through the Caymans, and by later today, I suspect your sunset down there is going to be spectacular. But for Cuba, and eventually the Florida Keys and the Northwest Bahamas, and a good deal of South Florida, and I'm going to talk about those impacts more in just a moment, this is all headed your way, and so conditions are just going to deteriorate. And then unfortunately for Florida, this is going to kind of hang around for a few days, and as I said yesterday, it's just going to menace the area. It's just going to bother you with rather inclement, stormy, squally conditions for several days. Unfortunately, this is not going to just get in and out. So this is what it looks like on a vorticity perspective, or from the vorticity perspective. This is from earlier this morning, so this would be about 7 a.m. And we haven't, I don't think, let's see if we have a new one. Nope, I'm refreshing it, and it's still 12 UTC, which would be 7 a.m. Eastern. This image showed that the vorticity was kind of stretched out, but this is a few hours old. So let's go to a more recent snapshot here. This is from Ryan Allen, and when people post helpful information, I look for it, and when I find it, I like to share it. And this interesting image here shows, as Ryan talks about, that it appears some early hints of, and I don't know exactly what MWI, should have asked, but that's okay. But early hints of an eye associated with Eta is developing immediately west of Grand Cayman. Both visible and infrared imagery seem to corroborate this. Wouldn't be surprised if Recon finds a mid-grade tropical storm, but in this case, Recon only found 40 miles per hour, but that's early. It's early on. The Hurricane Center needed to get the advisory out. But this particular imagery that we're looking at here shows us the structure a lot better than the satellite imagery that we were looking at that showed just the vorticity. So this is the structure of it. It's getting better organized, and we can see that in not only that imagery, but just a snapshot of the infrared imagery here. It's got that sort of curlicue going on as it tries to wrap up and take advantage of the warm Caribbean waters. And again, the upper flow all kind of moving in the same direction. Not ideal, but not going to hinder development either. Here's another perspective on everything from Levi's site. Let's just refresh all of this. The track map, as you can see here, this is updated now with a landfall now expected in South Florida after crossing Cuba later tonight, and then potentially back towards the Florida coast. And I suspect that this will start to turn more sharp over the coming couple of days. But this is my point. This whole area is going to receive just days and days of squally weather, onshore flow in some cases, beach erosion, travel with all the people that live in South Florida, and, the snowbirds, as that affectionate term refers to the folks that go up north during the summer, come down south during the winter. They are back, most of them, right? They come back down the annual migration into South Florida, especially. I know Naples and vicinity. Yeah, and so they're here. It's not September when most of them are still absent. They all come back down, usually starting in October, late September, October, and they're here. And so they're going to be dealing with something perhaps that they haven't had to deal with before. And that's important to note. The snowbird population, there's a lot of folks down here now. Some of the model guidance, just to give you an idea from the 12Z run of different model output, and there's a lot of different ones, but the overall idea, instead of nitpicking one at a time, what does the general envelope of the guidance look like? And for the most part, it's something like this sweeping turn, and then back towards the coast up here, perhaps near Cedar Key. So eventually, we may be looking at storm surge and other problems for the west coast of Florida. Right now, it's going to be the southeast coast down to the Keys, of course, Cuba first, and the Caymans now, obviously. But later on, we're going to have to deal with this in terms of impacts for Tampa Bay, for Cedar Key, perhaps, Venice, Sarasota, Captiva, Sanibel, Naples, Marco, right? So we got to address this, and I will do so in an evening update this evening. So the hazards, these are the things you need to be concerned with. How will this impact you? I know you're wondering that, and you might have some anxiety about it. Well, let me calm your fears. This is not going to be a major impact event on a large scale. Now, I do not know if a tree is going to fall in your yard and get on your house or crush your fence or crush your car, which would make it a big impact event for you. I don't know that. Nobody knows that. But on the broad scale, looking at the entire picture, this will be low to moderate impacts overall for the general sense of things, okay? Some areas may be high impact, but it's not going to be another Irma. There's not enough evidence in the guidance to suggest a rapidly intensifying hurricane or anything like that. I believe that the ceiling on this would maybe allow it to get up to about 80, 85 miles per hour. I could see that happening in some of the more well-developed bands of convection. If this became a hurricane, I see that it could maybe reach 85 miles per hour. Yes, that can cause some problems. But let's keep this in perspective, okay? I don't want a lot of people in South Florida with everything that we have all been through this year. And now we are in the 11th month, 7th day of that year, this year of tumultuous everything. I don't want you to worry too much about this and be, anxiety-ridden, but I also don't want you to downplay it, because those oranges and yellows in there literally paints the picture of a lot of rainfall. And there's actually one tiny little speckle of red, if you can see it right there. 10 to 15 inches of rain possible. All this rain in this area, a lot of people down here, crowded together on these interstates. I-95 in southeast Florida is just freaking the Wild West out there. It's crazy. There's going to be problems with travel. So if you need anything, got to go to the store, got errands to do, get it done today, and then just kind of stay home and watch our live coverage. That's one way to promote what we're doing, right? But seriously, it's going to have a lot of rainfall, and that's going to be a big problem. Some people are going to have some bad flooding. So take that into consideration. Storm surge, the onshore flow, where the wind is piling up the water against the coastline, yes, that will be a problem. And in some areas, 1 to 2 feet above normal levels, or above ground level, sorry. Kind of forgot that new way of looking at it. I think that started in 2014, maybe 6 years ago. It's above ground level. And not everywhere is going to see 1 to 2 feet or 2 to 3. But in some of the more favored locations, you could see as much as 2 to 3 feet of surge. And then we're going to have to watch as this changes and evolves towards the west coast. So there will be some beach erosion. There will be a little bit of pier, dock, marina damage, things like that. But obviously not the same as a major, well-developed, structurally and otherwise, with the center all intact. You know the difference by now, I hope. But then again, don't downplay this either. It will have some hazards. The rainfall, like I said, that's going to be a problem for now. It is held at bay, almost literally to the south of the southern part of the peninsula, and that'll be creeping up to the north. And these major cities along the southeast part here, I laugh because I know what's coming. I know all this heavy rain and all the traffic in the I-95 corridor, the Florida Turnpike, you're going to have accidents, you're going to have slowdowns, and you guys need to plan for that. And yes, once that onshore flow begins and you get some of these bands through here, you're going to have power outages. So plan for that. Maybe you have a medical reason that you need power. You need to plan for that now. Charge your batteries for everything. Get it done now, because this is going to be a sustained event. It's not going to be in and out. You know, the storm or hurricane, if it becomes a hurricane, comes in, comes out in the course of a day. This is going to linger and build and just be around. And like I said, when you see, when it's all said and done, that adjective I used, menacing, maybe that's a verb too. You can menace somebody. That's an action verb. But you get the idea. You'll say, yep, that was definitely menacing. All right, so we're going to be covering it through HurricaneTrack.com and our connection with this, Patreon. We've connected the two, and Patreon is our crowdfunding site. It's not our site, but it's what we use. And it itself is like its own little universe of social media tools. We can post blog posts, we can post exclusive updates, and you have access to a lot of stuff there. It's not just like a collection like PayPal. You know, PayPal is a funding only. Patreon actually has its own little world. So we've connected the two, Hurricane Track with Patreon and our Hurricane Track Insider site. And so if you become a supporter, this is how we fund what we do, and this is how we show you what we show you. We have our interactive tracking map, which is this right here. You can go on and turn on the different layers. You can see the past history. Our cameras populate on there. We're getting ready to set up several cameras down here in Florida. The radar, you can overlay the radar on this thing. Look at that. That is friggin' cool. And actually, this map was created by one of our patrons over in the UK. His name is Will. And he made this map for us. And it's awesome. You can zoom in, sketch street level. So yeah, if you want to know about the center, just to give you a quick rundown, you know, well, I want to know where that center is going to cross. Well, you can zoom right on in. You can click on these little areas, and it tells you what's going on. And we're going to put cameras down here. I'm going to start up in Vero Beach and work my way south with my team. I've got myself, of course, Mike Farrow, my colleague from North Carolina, and then good old Brent coming up from the Virgin Islands, just now landing in Miami, if my calculations are correct. We're going to set some cameras up in the Keys. We're going to set some up over on the West Coast, some on the East Coast, and this is how you watch them right there through Patreon. It's a clever way for us to fund what we do. This costs a lot of money, a couple $1,000s each time we go out, and it's my job. And so at the same time, we're able to provide you with some very interesting, insightful, innovative, unique, science-based coverage beyond television. Television's great, but television is one-dimensional. I mean, it's not. It's two-dimensional. It's got height and width, but you get the idea. With what we do, we can interact in real time through the live feeds, through the chat that we have. It's really amazing. So if you want to get involved, that's how you do it, and you get rewarded with an amazing set of tools as we cover Tropical Storm Eta in the Sunshine State. As always, though, we will have a free YouTube feed, our public feed. That's always going to be available. You know, we try to do our best to serve the public. That is the end game, and the way we fund that effort is through Patreon. So there you go. All right, so I'm going to shut up and get this online, and I'm going to head out, and Mike Farrow and I will go set up the first camera in the Vero Beach area. It's going to be looking south, and you're going to love that view. And I'll tweet pictures of it if you're not able to join on Patreon. I understand that. We will post pictures and clips from here and from here to there, from time to time. Starting to sound like Dr. Seuss. But yeah, we're going to get started, and I hope you can follow along. All right? All right. Have a good rest of your Saturday, and I'll be back. I'm staying down in the Keys tonight, down in Marathon, and I will have an update later this evening, and we'll see where things stand then. Until then, have a great rest of your Saturday. I'm Mark Sutter. Thanks as always for tuning in and listening to me. For HurricaneTrack.com, I'll talk to you again, hey, once I'm out on the road.